Happening now, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul's filibuster of now CIA Director John Brennan drawing plenty of fire from the media this week. His nearly 13-hour speaking marathon sparked some catcalls from the left and the right, with the lion's share of the coverage on cable news. Broadcast networks and the New York Times barely touched the story. MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell burying its coverage until the end of his show Tuesday and dismissing it, quote, as a fundraising stunt. The Wall Street Journal issued this stinging editorial, quote, if Mr. Paul wants to be taken seriously, he needs to do more than pull political stunts that fire up impressionable libertarian kids in their college dorms. He needs to know what he's talking about. So let's bring in our News Watch panel today. Kirsten Powers is a Daily Beast columnist. Judith Miller, a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter and author. Both are Fox News contributors. So, political stunt, Kirsten? Is that what it was?
I mean, it was a bit of a political stunt in the way that everything in Washington is a political stunt, but he had to do this in order to get attention to an issue that's been largely ignored. If the media did their job, asking more questions, demanding more answers, then he wouldn't have been forced to do this. So it's no surprise the establishment is sort of circling the wagons, all the people in the establishment press on either side getting together, and you have coming out and telling him to calm down as if he was somehow out of control. That's what the Wall Street Journal editorial board was saying. He was very calm and very reasonable and made great points. There were a couple times he said some things that, anyone would make a mistake in 13 hours of speaking, I would think. Yes. But, overall, it was very impressive.
And what did he accomplish, Judy?
Well, he did a lot. I mean, as Kirsten said, and here I totally agree with her, he called attention to a really important civil liberties issue for Americans. Does the government, does this president, who says he has the right to put a circle around a name of an enemy combatant overseas and kill them with a drone, does he have that right to do that to an American citizen?
And the administration didn't want to answer that question.
They didn't. I mean, this entire thing could have been avoided if the president and Eric Holder, as Attorney General, had provided the information that the Congress was asking for. When and under what circumstances will you consider doing this? He refuses, the president refuses to disavow this. And I'm in favor of the drone program, but I want to know what the rules of the game are, and especially when it comes to American citizens on American soil.
And then there was the disparity in the way it got covered by a couple of the nation's, top newspapers. The Washington Post found room to put a couple of stories about Paul's filibuster in its paper. The New York Times did not.
It's deplorable. It really is just deplorable.
Well, I think they did today. Yeah. Finally, on Friday, they finally put a front page story about how this issue was kind of jumbling up the politics, but they didn't specifically cover the filibuster. You're right.
And here's one senator who manages to, throw sand into the gears of government for 13 hours. He said he didn't really walk in that day planning to do it, but he wound up doing it. He wasn't necessarily prepared with comfortable shoes and that kind of thing, but he did manage to get it done, and it just goes to show, I guess, that well, he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish.
Well, and he didn't do badly for himself either. If you're one of 16 Republicans who are now thinking about a presidential run, people now know who he is. They know more than they did a week ago who he is. So he did the right thing for the country, raising the right questions, and I think he did the right thing for himself politically.
So that gets us back to the political stunt question.
Yeah, well, but I don't know anybody who's, other than, I guess, someone at MSNBC saying ridiculous things about it being a fundraising stunt. I mean, that's just, I think most people agree that Rand Paul would have done this regardless of who was in office, that this is a principled position, and that he, and this is something he believes in. So if there's some political benefit to him, so be it. But my sense is he'll do things even if they don't benefit them, if it's to back up his principles, which is just something that doesn't happen in Washington. It's very newsworthy.
Again, we ask this question all the time, but if George W. Bush had suggested that it was going to be okay to perhaps, send a drone over Atlanta or, Fort Lauderdale or any other American city and take out a terrorism suspect, there would have been howls from the Democratic side.
We'd be having impeachment hearings. I mean, this is just ridiculous. The double standard should be so clear now to everybody. Even if you support the president, I think Americans have a right to know where he comes down on these crucial issues. And it's interesting that you get Code Pink and libertarians and the Tea Party on one side, but that does say that there are some legitimate issues being raised.
And interesting that it took this kind of a move to get this pronouncement out of the former law professor's administration
Right.
that, we are not really thinking it's legal for the president to kill Americans on American soil with a drone.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking as I was watching it. I think in hour 11, I was asking, why does a senator have to stand and talk for 11 hours to get this basic question answered? I mean, they should have answered it already, but maybe in hour 2 or 3 they could have answered it. I mean, it's
not just this issue, but Benghazi and the legal justification for a number of things that the Congress has been asking the president about. It's a consistent policy on the part of the White House not to give up this kind of information, and I don't understand it.
It was an interesting week. Most people haven't seen a filibuster like this before, and it was interesting to watch and interesting to see how it was covered. I'll have more with our panel this weekend on Fox News Watch. It runs 2:30 Eastern tomorrow, right here on Fox News.